All righty. I would like to call the January 19th, 2021 City of Bloomington Board of Public Safety meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Shruti, I want to welcome you to the board. This is your first meeting.
Yes, thank you. It's great to see all of you.
Welcome to the board.
Yeah. Would you mind just sharing just a brief introduction and, if you're interested in joining and anything else you want to share?
Sure. So my name is Shruti Rana. I'm the assistant dean at the Hamilton Luger School and a professor there where I teach law. And I've just been really excited about being involved with our Bloomington community here. And I moved here in 2017, and I, just a couple months after that, had a daughter who is our Bloomington native. And so that just made me want to be even further involved in our community and just, make it the best place it can be for our children and our community. So I'm really excited to join all of you here.
Oh, wonderful. And welcome to the community as well, a little belatedly. All right, we have election of officers for the year. Chris, do you preside over this process or?
Well, you certainly may as the sitting, I think you're the vice chair, right? So
I am.
You can certainly ask if anybody has anyone that who would like to step forward as the chair.
All right.
And if not, then you're going to need to seek nominations.
Okay. Is anyone interested in serving as the president of the board for the coming year?
I just want to let everyone know that I won't be able to because I have so much going on. I've actually applied to some stuff. I want to say it yet because I want to wait until I get it, but I won't be able to this year. But I wish whoever is looking forward to doing that the best of luck. Plan on supporting.
All righty. Anyone else?
This might become one of those votes for everybody standing on a line. And funny, most boards I know of, people jump up wanting to be chair. I don't know why. We're about to take a step backwards, and then Rafi's not here, so he'll be just standing on his own.
Right. You know what they say, if you miss a meeting, be careful what happens in your absence. Well, I'm welcome to stand into that role if no one else would like to serve. So I would offer myself.
In which case, you'll seek votes for your appointment as the chair for this year.
All right.
I second.
I'm in.
Somebody needs to actually make the motion first, yeah. Louise.
Well, I already second, so I can't make the motion.
Sure you can. Go right ahead.
I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Kim Gray as our chair for the 2021-2022 Board of Public Safety year.
Second. Do I have a second for that?
McQuiba had said.
Oh, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Unmute.
Kim, I'm going to jump in here. I like it when we're on these Zoom meetings, instead of just all in favor, I like for Nicole to do a roll call vote so that we can hear and make sure we know that everybody has sounded off on their vote.
Good call.
All right, so I have a motion from Luis and a second from McQuiba. Kim?
Yes.
McQuiba?
Yes.
Shruti?
Yes.
Luis?
Oh, yes.
All right.
That motion carries. So now, Madam Chair, you can entertain any buddy who might be interested in stepping forward to be the vice chair, since that position is now vacant.
Right, and I'm happy to entertain that. I'd like to serve in that role. McQuebe?
I thought Luis was saying yes.
How did you see that? What did I even do? I was trying to keep really still.
It was like,
I thought I saw her head nodding, so yeah.
That's not what I saw, but
No, it isn't? Okay.
surely we can move along here.
oh. If I say yes, is it possible to be an interim?
Your role as the vice chair is simply to step in and run the meeting in the event that Kim is not able to make the meeting on any given occasion. Otherwise, your role as vice chair is really just being a member of this board.
Yeah. And I will tell you now that we're all working from home, that likelihood of you stepping in because I have a work commitment is very low. So.
Luis, are you thinking about it?
I'm thinking about nominating you. I'm really close, this close. Here's the thing, I want to nominate McQueen. I think the world of her. She's really talented. She's hardworking. She's tremendous. I love her to death, and I want to nominate her for vice chair. Do I have a second?
Do not second that.
Kim, I don't hear you. Shruti,
I
come on.
second it.
There you go, we got a second. Do we have a vote? Nicole, you go ahead quick.
Nicole?
She's not listening.
And so we have a motion and a second for McQuebe to be vice chair. Nicole, if you would take the roll, please.
Yeah, Kim,
Yes.
McQuiba,
Yes,
Yeah.
McQueen.
Shruti,
Yes.
Luis,
Oh, certainly, yes. I'm all in.
Luis, we're going to talk after.
That motion has been carried, and McQuebe will be the 2021 vice chair. McQuebe, just remember that you get to nominate Luis next year for the chair.
Yes.
McQueen, congratulations, McQueen. Congratulations.
I'm sending you lots and lots of love right now.
It'll be a fun year. It'll be a good year.
Indeed.
It has
The next item on the agenda is confirmation of our, and I think it's 2021 board meeting dates. So that needs to be, I think, edited in the agenda.
It's a typographical error. Yes, the next item up for discussion is confirmation of 2021 board meeting dates. Nobody caught it. That's good for you, Kim. Good job.
All right. Do we need a vote on that?
I'd like to go ahead and have you all vote to make sure that the meetings are set in place.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move that we confirm the dates, 2021 meeting dates for the Board of Public Safety for next year.
Do I have a second?
a second.
All in favor?
Kim.
We're going to take a roll, please.
That's right. That's right. Sorry.
So Kim, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
McQuiba,
Aye. Yes.
Shruti,
Aye.
Luis.
Aye.
And that
Aye.
motion has carried.
Yes.
So the 2021 board meeting dates are as shown in the board packet for the Tuesdays of each month. What is it, third Tuesday of each month at 6
Third
o'clock?
Tuesday of each month. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Great. All right. The next order of business is the proposed amendment to the standards to establish reinstatement procedures for former members in good standing of the fire department.
And I'll jump in initially. Again, I've been doing a lot of talking. This is Chris Wheeler with City Legal. And we have Jennifer Lloyd, who represents the fire department. I believe there she is. She's on here as well.
Mhm.
This is a proposed amendment to the standards for the Board of Public Safety that would have the board create a procedure for former members of the fire department who are in good standing to become reinstated with the department as opposed to going through a full rehiring process. And the language that's been proposed has been shared with the board previous to the meeting, but that language is to add to Section 7 of your Board of Public Safety Standards. The heading would say appointment and reinstatement to the City of Bloomington Fire Department, and then a new Section D would be added to that appointment and reinstatement section. And that reinstatement section then, Section D would read as follows: any member of the department who resigns their position with the department voluntarily and has a member in good standing, and as a member in good standing may, upon application for reinstatement, be eligible for reinstatement to the department by the board at a later date if the applicant satisfies the age requirements set out by PERF and Indiana Code 36-8-8. And if there is a vacancy in the department that would not otherwise be required to be filled by a person or persons who qualify for employment preferences. And then the procedures then would be for, they go 1 through 6 enumerated. Number 1 is an applicant for reinstatement shall meet all of the standards for appointment set forth in 7A1. An applicant for reinstatement shall be interviewed by the chief. After interviewing the applicant for reinstatement, the chief may recommend the applicant to the Board of Public Safety for reinstatement. The applicant will be reinstated at the lowest ranking position in the department. The offer of reinstatement shall be contingent upon the applicant's satisfaction of the requirements of 7C8 and any other requirements of the board or the department. Lastly, then, if the applicant successfully passes all required examinations and is accepted by PERF, the applicant shall be sworn in as a member of the department by the mayor or the mayor's designee. Staff, including myself, is recommending that this amendment be made. And I'm going to pass the ball over to Jennifer Lloyd to shore up anything that I.
All that I'll add to this is that, as you might guess, this came up in response to a situation that came to the fire department's attention a few weeks ago. We have the opportunity to bring somebody back in who's was an excellent employee for us. And the Board of Public Safety is the body that has the exclusive jurisdiction for hiring. And when we looked at your policies and procedures, there was no way to do it right now without going through the gigantic hiring list process, every other year. So we thought it made sense to have a mechanism where the chief can put forward somebody who qualifies, meets all of our, meets all of our statutory requirements, meets the qualification of having resigned in good standing, and still meets all the qualifications put on us by the state and by PERF. So we think this is a win-win for the department. It gives us the opportunity to bring in known quantities who are excellent officers, and at a time when it's very difficult for us to keep the numbers up in the fire department, this is just a great mechanism. So we hope that the board will approve it.
I'm always curious about reinstating. So when this first came in my email, I'm always curious about were there any previous misconduct from this firefighter, and if so, would it be transparent? I would like for it to be transparent to know why and or if there is any additional misconduct, or have there been any misconduct?
Well, I can tell you that this officer left in good standing. So there was not any misconduct pending against him at the time. And as to the question of what his history is, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think we have some limitations on what we can discuss in terms of his personnel file. I say that not having any reason to think that there's anything in his personnel file. And I'll let the chief jump in.
I just want to be perfectly clear. This is part of that process where we interview. I review their file. So this is not just a free ticket that you left and you get to come back. We do validate their We do validate how they did perform while they were an employee, and then again, if they left in good standings. And I can tell you from my standpoint, I would not bring to your attention if it was not for the betterment of our department. And if the circumstances of their departure were not something that we were not worried about happening again.
Sure.
Yeah, and we'll be addressing that reappointment later on in the agenda as well. But right now, we're just looking at the amendment.
So could I be, if I'm understanding this correctly because of what Kim just said, basically what this is doing is letting him, in this case, he, jump to the queue to the front. We had a process, we've talked about this now for a few meetings. We had 100 candidates and I don't know what's happened there. This change, all it's doing is simply saying, let's bring this person, let's not put that person through that same process. Let's bring him to the beginning and then or to the front of the queue. Basically, if you said it's not a free ticket, but I read it as a free ticket and I'm not saying that negatively. I'm simply saying, move them to the front and then now we get to see the person and then we have to approve them a second time. So this is not, which is curious. It's not saying you get in automatically, but rather you get to jump the process and then we vote on this person without having to do the other steps. Is that fair?
I would characterize it differently. And I recognize the point that you're making. I would characterize this as setting up a second way that somebody can come into the department that is separate from that hiring process. That's part of the reason why we've talked about it as a reinstatement process, because this person is in a different, he's in a different set of circumstances than the people that come in through our usual hiring list process. This is somebody who's been through that in the past, met all those qualifications, was one of the top ranking people on the list, and was hired into the department and served. He's somebody who, again, left in good standing and is now coming back into the department rather than somebody who is new to the department coming up through the list. That's why we called it, that this is a reinstatement rather than, hey, here's an exception to the hiring list. We see it as just two different circumstances.
But the wording, that is why I'm pushing, because it's not a reinstatement until we vote on him.
Oh.
So the point that McCree was making, so we still have a second. I mean, this is not saying you get the job, but rather we're bringing a different way to bring a person to your attention to a vote. So then we get to vote in a few moments. We're gonna then, if there's anything in the record we don't like, or that we have to ask questions about, that's not here. This happens after, or, in a few, whenever the person comes to the board.
Correct. All we're doing right now is seeing if you'd be willing to put the language that would allow us to get to that point later in the meeting to bring somebody.
I don't see why not myself, but.
I just want to add a little bit more language to the reinstatement. I guess the additional language that I would like to include is if there is misconduct, like what happens with the misconduct. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because studies have shown that there have been either police officers or firefighters that jump from different places in order to, because of misconduct from a different location, just kind of jumping around. So I just wanted to make sure that who we're bringing back into Bloomington are still within good standings, even if they leave a fire station. And I guess my additional thing that I would like to discuss is what happens if this individual decides to leave again? How do we know? How can not saying that we have to micromanage this individual staying at our fire station, but how do we know that they will stay here within a certain amount of time? Is it requested that this firefighter stay a year or 2 years guaranteed? Like, how do we know that they won't, she or they will hop around?
I
was going to jump in there. I'm sorry. I don't think we can force anybody to stay in an employment situation. So that language, while I understand your intention behind it, should not be included in any one of these, should not be included in your standards. And as far as if they're coming from an outside, if they've jumped, if they left the service in Bloomington and went to a different fire service and had misconduct at that fire service, that's part of the interview by the chief, I'm guessing, is for him to find out what happened with them. And yeah, so here comes
Okay.
Jason. He's going to jump in.
Just to put that at rest, we would do the entire background check process that we would for any other employee.
Okay.
So where have you been? What have you done? Was there misconduct? The background investigations that we get done on new employees, we would run again just to make sure that nothing had happened.
Okay.
Again, we will do all of our due diligence to make sure we are bringing you a quality candidate. And also to your point, there is that break-even point on an employee, the cost to train them. And that's another reason why a reinstatement is good. We've already made the investment in this person. They're already fully trained. So they need very minimal retraining, making sure that they back up on par for our standards. But we've already hit break even on this employee. So to say, I need you to stay 3 or 4 more years, we don't need to.
Okay.
They've already, met that requirement. And again, we would not bring somebody towards this board in any condition, new hire or otherwise, that we didn't feel was good for the department. And again, we sometimes find out otherwise and we make corrective actions after, but I'm not going to talk about this particular individual. We need the process that if this does happen, that we can recoup that investment, and we have a secondary process that allows us to semi-fast track and get somebody on a truck, much like what the police do with laterals.
Thank you for that clarification, Chief.
Yeah,
So,
and Quibe, the very D1 of the ended reinstatement refers to 7A1. And if you go to that section, it goes through all the qualifications that must be met. So they need to meet all of those before they were considered.
Right. I just wanted to say that was my biggest concern, just the misconduct. I just want to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty, any other questions before we have a motion and a vote? All right, do I have a motion? This amendment.
I would happily do it. Oh, here. I move that we approve the amendment to BPS standards to establish reinstatement procedures for former members in good standing. I'm reading from our agenda. If I need to read something different, please let me know. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Got a second?
Second.
All right, Nicole, would you mind taking the roll count?
All right, I have a motion from Luis and a second from Maquiba. Kim,
Yes.
Maquiba,
Yes.
Shruti. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, and Luis.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Jennifer. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 16th meeting?
I motion to approve the December 16th meeting for the Board of Public Safety.
You're moving to approve the minutes?
Yes. Did I say that? Oh. I moved so fast. I moved to approve the minutes of December 16th, Board of Public Safety meeting minutes for December 16th.
I second.
Second, great.
All right, I have a motion from Maquiba and a second from Luis. Kim,
Yes.
Maquiba,
Yes.
Shruti,
Yes.
Luis.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to fire department business.
All right, thank you. So for our statistics and otherwise, we are still digging in for our annual report, but I am very happy to tell you that for the fourth year in a row, we have had 0 fire fatalities, and that is actually thanks to Gold Shift. They did rescue somebody on New Year's Eve. Fire instances were up overall for the percentages, but we had a 6.7% reduction in our total call volume. If you look at the IU, it's a 39% reduction in IU's call volume. I think we can all attest to why. If they're in in-person class versus online distance learning. Looking at it, we were very well aware that we were not going to meet certain goals. The response time goal, we were at 81%. We were trying to hit the national standard of 90% within 4 minutes. This is fairly consistent. We've been tracking this for multiple years. We have never done better than 83%. So at this point, we're going to be evaluating options. We do know that 3 of our stations need to be replaced. So looking at where they're positioned and would it put us in a better place to be able to meet those response goals will definitely be a consideration. And then on the 8-minute response, we were down 1%. We have a goal of 98%, and it was 97 point less than 0.5. So we did not quite make that goal either. And again, a lot of this comes down to where we're responding from, because now we don't have the delays from bad equipment. We've got station alerting. We've got a lot of the things that could have been done to speed up our response have been done. And all that's left now are major things like considering where stations are located. On our prevention and public engagement, we've been saying this since the pandemic broke out, that we did not think we would ever meet any of these goals. And as you can see, we were right. We were only at 16% of our known inspections that we were trying to get done. I also want to point out that one of our current vacancies is one of our fire inspectors. So they were in a medical pensioning process, and they've actually not been here doing work for several months. That has now been settled, and they are retired as of January 8th. We did make some good progress on our social media, again, trying to retool, refigure how we do things. So we did see substantial progress in our social media presence. For training, we have been talking about it. There were a couple months where it dipped down below our departmental goal, but overall, we did hit 100% of our goal for training of our firefighters. And then when we talk about other goals that are coming for 2021, I just want everyone to know that we are looking at developing an actual strategic plan, which you will be a part of, and we will be soliciting input as our community advisement board. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have about the statistics for 2020.
Chief, what did you mean? You said national, you meant local? What did you mean, the plan that you're drafting for the coming year? You mentioned national, but I don't know what that means.
So we're going to be working on a strategic plan. We'll be looking at all the national standards, but we will be bringing it to Bloomington. And how can we meet those standards, or are those standards appropriate for our community's expectations?
Is that where the 98% came from and the 80%?
Yes, it's actually supposed to be 90% and 98. And those are the NFPA, so the National Fire Protection Association standards that we just put out. Here's what the national standard says. I will tell you as a practitioner, we have not seen the poor outcomes. So that standard is kind of that cookie cutter across all communities. And it's kind of a benchmark to hit, but it is not the only benchmark. We not only look at just the statistics, we also look at the outcomes. And having 0 fire fatalities, having 10 saves in 4 years means that we are getting there and we are doing our job. And I'm really proud of our department for how they are doing their job, and that we necessarily don't have to follow those standards because we're seeing good outcomes, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you. The standard is what you shoot for because it shows you have good outcomes, but we're still having the good outcomes.
So could I ask you, are there metrics that you can use? Because I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense to me, the idea that there's metrics nationwide or standards, but then communities are different for all kinds of reasons. Are there metrics that you could use to figure out what the standards should be locally? Do they exist?
Yep. So that's part of what we talked about in the past of going down the accreditation process. And that looks at what is the community expectation, what are the community hazards, and how well we're meeting those. We don't have the ability to do the full accreditation process now, but we are going to start using those metrics to building that, what we call the standard of cover. So we will understand how well we are responding, and we communicate that with the community and say, do you want better, or is this too much? And then you get into the community setting the goal for us, as opposed to some blanket national standard that doesn't always fit our community.
Thank you. Okay, I'll ask one more. So then, as you've said that metrics are goals are down, our progress is down, that we're 16% inspection goal. So, and I know COVID, I get it. So are you seeing that as reflected in the department, in the community? I take your point about response and how you don't see that reflected in a negative way, and you're pointing to data. Do you see it in the other metrics that you're showing us? Are you seeing any negative reactions because of not meeting those goals or not?
The inspection goal is one that has a drifting effect. So if you don't do really well inspections, then you miss things, and then they become fire hazards and turn into fires in subsequent years. So we're not going to see an immediate effect from not doing these inspections. And if we do what we're supposed to, which is get on the track to catching up on them and keeping up with them again, we should not see the negativity. But if this trend were to continue, just nationwide, it's been proven that if you're not doing those inspections, you will see a rate of increase in fires. You will see the magnitude of the fires increase, and you will see fire fatalities increase. So I guess the quick answer is we're not going to see it. It's a slightly delayed effect. But if we do not get out of this and get into some more normal routine, getting back to that goal, then we will start seeing negative effects from it.
So the hope is that you'll be able to get back to it soon.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Right, letters of appreciation and commendation.
I did not have any to scan in, but I do have two. From our Africa trip, we did receive letters from a state senator thanking us for that. I know that I've updated this board more than once on that. I am very proud to tell you that they have created their own essentially FEMA department now. So they now have basically an office or a ministry of emergency response. And we are still planning another trip in May to return as long as COVID precautions, kind of calm down a little bit. And we also are all getting ourselves immunized. So hopefully we'll be able to travel again soon.
Mm-hmm. As a reminder, how is that trip funded?
It is 100% funded through the Department of State. It is actually tied to a program that IU runs. It's the Washington Mandela program, where it brings young African leaders to the United States to learn. And then it pairs up American professionals to go back to the African countries and to impart knowledge or help the student with a project of their choice.
Wonderful.
Thank you for that update. Really good. Thank you.
General business?
If it is okay, can I kind of tie the general business and the purchasing and get everything, because it's all kind of grouped into it. So Chief Washell is not here today because he is actually in Florida inspecting our new aerial truck. It is the last large apparatus that needs to be replaced. Technically, it was bought with 2020 funds, but it takes about 18 months to build these large trucks. We are really, really hopeful that it passes final inspection while they're down there, and that we will get this in service probably within the next 2 months. With that, every frontline apparatus of the Bloomington Fire Fleet will be brand new at that point and in good serviceable condition, which is a huge relief for us. Let's see, we do have 6 positions down. That includes the 1 fire inspector. We have 5 firefighter openings. We have 4 more planning to retire or resign in March. There could be a potential of another 1 to 3 added onto that, depending on how some of our candidates finish in the Monroe Fire Protection District process. But we have already contacted the top 9 on the list that you approved. I am proud to say all 9 are still interested. Generally, the top candidates apply for multiple departments. So all 9 are still hoping to come here. We'll be getting them their physicals, and as long as that goes well, they've already passed background checks. And we will be looking at having our largest recruit class in March. It will also be our most diverse recruit class. I'm very proud of that as well. And then for large expenditures that you may see, besides truck 2, which is that truck I was just telling you about, that is just under $1 million. The ticket price on it was over $1 million, but we did trade in an engine. So this is kind of the benefit of getting ahead of the replacement cycle. The engine still had residual value of about $150,000 as opposed to scrap value, which is what most of our trucks have been going for lately. So that $150,000 was used as a trade-in against this and saved the city the $150,000 on it. We just finished the audio video systems for the new training room down on the leased property at McIntyre. That's around $40,000. It is fully integrated. It has live stream capability. And our goal between COVID, trying to get better at what we're doing and also being more efficient and not driving the large trucks, is that a few more upgrades within the stations, we'll be able to broadcast trainings from the training center to all 5 stations, preventing the large trucks from having to come to one location all the time.
Mhm.
You should also see a purchase for fire gear of around $55,000. That is just our annual replacement. And we're also holding a portion of that for the new recruits that are coming on. And I believe that covers all of our business.
Personnel issues?
I think, is this where the memo for Josh Tapp is located?
Well,
It's
technically,
one item down.
yeah.
Yeah, and as far as that goes, it was that we're down 6 positions. I have 0 on light duty, and we have 4 known planned separations of retirement or resigning in March.
All right.
I'm curious, when are the new recruits coming in?
Currently, as long as everything pans out with COVID, we've had some delays in getting their physicals and everything. We are looking at a March 22nd start date for 9 of them. And then 1 of them will have to start April 5th because we have 1 person retiring after the March 22nd start date. I am also really happy that 4 of the individuals, pending your approval of 1 of them tonight, are fully certified. They will be going through an abbreviated recruit school so that we can get them online much quicker. So yeah, so there'll be 9 starting hopefully March 22nd and 1 starting on April 5th.
Thank you.
All righty, the reinstatement of Joshua Tapp in the position of probationary firefighter.
Great. So the memo outlines what we know. Josh Tapp, some of you may have had some dealings with him. He was our union president. He is a very solid firefighter, not only well liked, but well respected. And he is a known quantity for us. He is fully certified all the way up to the captain level. He does understand that he has to serve his probationary year again, that after his probationary year, he does not get to jump back up to his previous seniority, that he is restarting his career. With the only exception is that his pension with the state, he's already got credit for the 7 years that he's already served. So that would mean he would have to serve at least 13 more years to be able to collect his pension. So I am recommending that we do reinstate Joshua Tapp conditionally, that he passes all the perf process, and he has already passed a background check in the interview portion to understand why he left and why he will not be leaving us again if he gets to come back.
All right, any questions before we?
Chief, could I ask you, and this is not intended as a weird question, who's your union leader right now?
Currently, it's Jordan Canada is the elected president from the body.
I'm trying to remember, I think I remember Josh from but it seems like a long time ago. 2020. I know I'm getting old and all that, but it's 2017. That's a long time ago. But then I look at Coulter's. He looks older too. So then it must be right. It must be. Wow, time flies. So can I ask a different question? So the seniority point, is that state law? Is that a choice we're making in Bloomington? And I know that's for the lawyers. I'm assuming it's for the lawyers, but
It's city policy. They have a reinstatement policy, but because you are our hiring authority, that's why we're going through you. It does say if an employee leaves in good standing and comes back, that they start out at the lowest level seniority again.
okay. Well, in light of our 2 points, in light of what we said before, I don't see any downside. And the second point is in reference to what you said about the hiring and the divert. I was going to ask you about that because it feels a little bit like, I know that's not it, but it feels a little bit like since we have so many people waiting, or we had such a big list, it's felt a little bit like jumping a queue. I know that's not it. I take Jennifer's point, but what you said, it makes it easier, if that's the right word. So I'm all for it. Of course, knowing him too helps. So, which is
Yeah,
human nature.
a known quantity. Yeah.
I know him personally. I remember him. And we interacted a few times we had some issues with, anyway, he was a good guy, what I remember. So yeah, I have no qualms.
Are we ready for a motion? Would someone like to make one?
I move that we reinstate Joshua Tapp as a Bloomington firefighter, effective. In fact, I never was given a date, so I can't fill that in.
No, it'll be a conditional based on him passing all of the perf processes.
Do I have to start over, Chris Wheeler?
Let's see if you can finish it off, Luis.
I don't have a pen. I move that we reinstate Joshua Tapp as a Bloomington firefighter. It's a conditional offer contingent on passing his tests.
To the position of probationary firefighter.
Do you need me to get a pen? I mean, I could do that. I move that we reinstate, that's what we need. That we reinstate Joshua Tapp to the position of, oh, I see it here. I move that we reinstate Joshua Tapp to the position of probationary firefighter. Condition upon which he passes various tests that shall be given to him.
Whew, you can all breathe now. Second.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Nicole. Nicole,
Did we get a, Nicole, go ahead and call the roll, please. I think we've lost Nicole. I will call the roll. Luis?
I can do it if you'd like, Chris.
I got it. Luis?
Okay.
Yes.
McQuebe?
Yes.
Shruti?
Yes.
Kim?
yes. All righty, I'm going to move the certification of payroll till after the police department business. I think that's normally when it's done, right?
Correct. I think we moved it up there one meeting prior. For some reason, I can't remember why, and it just kind of stayed there. So that's fine.
Okay. So, Chief Dekoff, or
Are we ready for monthly stats?
we are ready. Yeah.
Okay. Just a point, I would like to say that I'm thankful that it's recording so that in case Jennifer and Chris missed the hostile work environment that was created by Luis for the age discrimination comment. So moving on to stats. Calls for
No-
service were
nowhere.
down significantly for the month of December over November. And I would just note that from a dispatch policy board meeting that we had today, overall for the county, for calls for service as well as administrative calls that were processed by the Central Dispatch Center, they were down 43,000 for 2020 over 2019. So that is just a incredibly significant decrease in the number of calls. So it almost stand to reason that all COVID-related interactions and that type of thing would be down, including the police department. So again, calls for service are down. I have a note that what I hope to provide for the board for February would be the end of year stats for all of 2020 to give an idea on some of our major incidents such as murder, burglary, thefts, and some of those types of things. So hopefully that will all be compiled, which may be much easier to read than some of this that you're typically provided. Just to kind of highlight some things, it looks like for aggravated assault, we were only a +2. It looks like simple assaults were down 14. Burglaries were down, as there were just a minor increase in thefts, and weapons violations were down by 4, and we're hoping that that is a continuing trend that would carry over into 2021. We are now at adult arrests, the bar graphs for 2019-2020. Again, adult arrests were down 107 over this time last year. Juvenile referrals were only down by a couple. Domestic violence cases were -7, and the UCR hate crimes have not, the fourth quarter has not been tallied yet completely, so that will be provided, excuse me, hopefully at the February meeting as well. If you go to more to the narrative part, crimes, trends, major cases, there was a fatality accident on East 3rd Street. Theft from vehicles at the walking trail parking lots showed an increase. And then there was also, much like a lot of agencies, an uptick in the catalytic converter thefts. Training hours were down in December over other months. We only had 96.5. Some of the trainings that were attended were trends in internet crimes against children and emerging technology, protecting those who served during the overdose and COVID crisis, and then our typical unit trainings of K9 CERT and dive team. There were 0 community engagement events for December, and there are none scheduled so far for January. Police social worker, 25 referrals, and the total number of contacts by the police social worker were 270. And you can see the summary there of some of what Melissa calls wins, and that would be assisted an elderly homeless male with safely housing his dog while looking for other shelter options, assisted family with accessing food and utility assistance after an unexpected death in the family, provided therapy for 2 teens and their family, neighborhood resource specialist, 29 calls for service, and you can see the basically all of the statistical information. The other thing would be basically an overview of all of the training that we will be providing throughout the year. We have a lot of questions that relates to what kind of training do you do? What kind of training have you done? And what I would like to do is put before the board in a public forum all of the training broken down by month, if that's appropriate, such as de-escalation, mental health first aid, just so the board is aware of the investment that we make in the training, and you can have that long, lookout as to what it is we are providing our officers over the course of 2021. So that 2 things, stats end of year for 2020, as well as an overview of all training that we will be providing for 2021 to the department. So those are my goals.
You're muted, Kim.
Sorry. Are you considering any Zoom events at all? Engagement through virtual events, like coffee with a cop? By Zoom. Curious.
We have not, and I have to be honest, when we talk about coffee with a cop, it was a great concept when it began, and I am one who thoroughly believes in interactions with the public on as many opportunities as we can. As the mayor frequently says, the more the community gets to know us, the better they'll understand us, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, those events were very poorly attended, and it ended up being where I felt kind of sorry for whoever was hosting the event, because they would sometimes provide, coffee and light snacks and things like that. And they were really left holding the bag for a lot of things that went uneaten, simply because we just didn't have the turnout that we were hoping to get. So we kind of backed off on those, looking to see if we could find other alternatives for interaction with the community. And then, of course, COVID hit and everything came to a screeching halt. So, maybe people would feel more comfortable doing it from the comfort of their homes. But that really kind of misses out on that one-on-one opportunity that you have, to kind of interact with someone.
Yeah. Just curious. Letters of appreciation and accommodation.
We have one, and this would come from the chief of police for the city of Martinsville. And this had to do with a pursuit that took place on December 30th. And this was of a stolen vehicle that was taken from Kroger Jackson Creek. And it wound its way up 69, 37, et cetera, et cetera. And the chief of Martinsville was one who was posted at one of the intersections in Martinsville when that was open before it shut down completely through that area. And he was very complimentary about the manner in which the officer was engaged in the pursuit. As we know, those are relatively high risk events. And, we have to use a lot of due regard and caution for the rest of the motoring public as we try to do our thing. And the chief was very complimentary about how the officer conducted himself as they went through Martinsville for that particular pursuit. So, and that would be for Officer Byerly, who was the primary vehicle behind the stolen vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Okay, general business.
So our officers continue to get vaccinated for COVID. We started that a couple weeks ago and are continuing to encourage that with our officers, as well as I think the fire department also has been doing that. He mentioned that, so we'll throw that in for him. We continue to monitor things that might occur for tomorrow's inauguration. We have been having meetings with our federal partners, and they've been briefing us on things. So we like I said, we continue to monitor that. I'm not going to go into any details about anything, but we're watching things. So that's about it for general business.
I meant to ask this during the fire department as well for general business. Excuse me for that. So January 6th, we know that there was an insurrection that took place at Capitol Hill. And I'm curious about if we know if any of our either firefighters or if our police officers were there. And then I guess a follow-up question is what would happen? What are some disciplinary practices put in place if that were to happen and if any of our firefighters or police officers were part of it?
Well, we're not aware of any police officers that went. Obviously, it would depend on what their behavior was in DC, and we would, if we received a complaint of that, we would open an investigation and look for any rules violations that might have occurred and address those as needed.
And I just echo that. That's exactly what would happen with us as well. And we are not aware of anybody that was there or participating.
Okay.
Good question. Purchases. Expenditure payments.
There may be some contractual agreement. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think there might be some contractual agreements that we pay at the beginning of the year. Or there may not be. I don't remember what was in there. So
Okay. Any extraordinarily high?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right.
Nothing new.
Okay. And then personnel issues.
This will take a little bit of time. So we're currently 12 short of what our authorized strength of 105 is. We're pretty sure we have 3 more people leaving in probably February or March. We are currently in a hiring process right now for officers where 2 of those applicants are already certified and 6 others are not. And right now we're in the background stage of all that. Keep in mind that the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy is still closed and not doing any in-person classes. So it makes it difficult to hire people who are not already certified to become officers. So also to just let you know, the neighborhood resource specialists, we're adding to that. We had 40 plus applicants for those positions. So we're reviewing those, and we're hiring 2. So we're reviewing those right now. We also have the hiring process underway for social worker, where we're hiring 2 new social worker positions, and we completed interviews last week, and we're in the process of doing background checks on those people as well. And we are getting ready to start a process for a new data analyst that was also approved in the budget for 2021.
Very good. And if I could ask for both of you to certify the payroll that the board received.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I don't think we have any old business to attend to. CERT ARV deployment.
There were none.
None. And do we have anyone attending the meeting who would like to speak? Members of the public.
And then ask you, I'm going to go ahead and ask, but Nikki or Nicole, has anybody sent any messages to us for questions to be asked?
They have not, and I've not received any in my email. We do only have one member of the, I guess 2 members of the public here.
And I don't know if they received instructions at the beginning on what to do if they want to make comments. So maybe we should run through that just in case.
All righty. I think the main instruction is that each member has 3 minutes to speak. And if you could.
Yes. If anybody from the public wishes to make comment, they can use the raise hand button, and then we can call on them.
Mm-hmm.
Mary has placed in the chat that they are not here to make a public comment. So.
Okay. All righty. Well, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Unmute you, Luis.
Unmute.
So moved.
This meeting is adjourned.
It is adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Shirley, welcome.
Be safe.